Hello, everyone. This is Monsef Afker, and thank you so much for joining us in this new call of Your Divine Uniqueness. So glad to connect with you again. So thank you for your presence with us today, and also for those of you who will be either watching or listening to the replay. And also very excited and very happy that Gabrielle and Michael Spencer are both with us on the show today. Maybe some of you already know Gabrielle. She joined us several times on the show in the past years, and really her message, her energy that she embodies, and the healing work that she provides, and the service, it's really powerful. We received so many great feedback from some of you, and now like they've been together for a very long time and working together, but maybe more publicly. They started recently co-creating together and offering services together, which make their the impact and the support much more deeper, much more profound, and also the clients can see like really powerful results in their life and in the shifts that they are experiencing. And I'm so happy that they are here both with us. And so today's call will be about breaking through the 3D matrix overlay. So we'll be talking about that. You will understand that how we are affected in this, like in our journey, in our ascension journey, and also how to become aware of the limitations of the matrix that we've been in, and also how to handle that, how to embody more of our power, our multidimensionality, so we can navigate this as sovereign beings. And also we have a Q&A where you can ask your questions, and also you can ask, you can know how your subtle energetic body is being affected by the matrix overlay, and also the limitations that you may be experiencing with this overlay. So for that, so when we reach the Q&A, you can raise your hand by pressing on reactions, then raise hand on Zoom app, or you can click on *9 on your phone, or you can type your questions on the chat boxes on Zoom and YouTube. And so with that, Gabrielle and Michael, welcome to the show. Happy to have you with us, bro.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, Monsef, and we're excited to be here together and sharing this platform with everyone. The really awesome part, and we were telling this to Monsef before we got started, he asked us how we began working together, and the answer is that Michael and I met in 1999 on a spiritual journey to Tibet, and I will just share that I would never do that trip again, not because I didn't get Michael out of the deal. However, it was a hard trip, physically hard, and we did a lot of really great work, though.
It was a great trip.
It was a great trip. However, there were some parts that were not so great. Anyway, so we met a long time ago and married a long time ago. So May 1st, we were married 22 years, and we have 3 children, and we have both continued on our spiritual path. So we have private groups that we are in together, and Michael has worked with private groups and leading them and taking journeys around the world and continued that work. And I had gone out in the public and was doing my work that way. So after Christmas this year, we went off together for the day, and I tapped in for a channeling to start our new year off, right? How are we to continue? What are we to be doing? How do things look, etc.? It's always a good thing to do. We all know, right? And so we actually took that time, and I was channeling and connecting with someone Michael is very connected with in the celestial hierarchy, which is Almoria. And he mentioned, both of you are working on higher consciousness and helping to lead humanity to higher consciousness. You might want to think about working together. And we both stood there stunned. Isn't that funny? Like it never occurred to us to work together because we had our own things that we have been doing. And so we looked at each other and said, all right, let's see how we can do that. And so we have been spending these last several months incorporating the different aspects of what each of us do. So for me, I do the channeling and the healing and I'm going to just call it the feminine side. I never saw myself as like the feminine part, but after teaming up with Michael, it's so obvious that I am embodying the feminine part and he is much more the masculine part. So we come together to offer many perspectives, but however, still in the same stream of how things are working and the information each of us are getting. And it just reminds us how we're all so different, yet we're all still have the same overall mission.
Yeah, I never thought I was going to be out in the public eye. I'll be honest with you. I thought I was always going to work behind the scenes. That's where I was more comfortable, trying to either, whether it's helping to lead journeys or organizing people together, trying to get these massive sort of visualization, activation processes in gear to get people moving forward, to helping humanity or to removing some obstacles that we would be faced with, or whatever it may be. To actually have to go out and put my name out on the screen for me was a challenge, and it was a little bit more of a challenge than I was actually ready to jump into. But it's all working out for the best, and I think what it is we have a very strong message we want to get out. We have a whole series of messages that we want to get out, and this overlay component, what this matrix, this overall structure that's encompassing this 3D world. This is a start. It's a beginning of what we want to talk about, because it really sets a very strong pattern of what we're having to face, both as just humans living a 3D experience or as light workers, people focused on higher consciousness, whatever that may be, having to help not only transition ourselves into a higher reality, but humanity itself, or at least as much as humanity is ready to move on to that platform.
Yeah, wonderful. So I love your message, because it's like you said, it's very important to become more aware of what is happening, and also understand what is the 3D matrix and how it is manifested in our daily life, how to recognize if we are affected by it or not. So my first question is, how do you define it? Like, maybe not define it, but how do you perceive it in the human experience that we are living?
Well, I'm going to talk about from a macro level to begin with. Okay, so it doesn't really matter overall, but it's important to understand the basic theories of what we're talking about when we talk about this overlay, this matrix, and not just the movie that presented it about 10 years ago, even though that was 20 years ago. Yeah, that was somewhat enlightening for its time. But whether this is a God-created world, a three-dimensional world that has its own evolutionary process, whether this is, like many people believe, some spontaneous creation, this big bang that just led to this natural evolutionary process, or whether it's something more akin to a simulation. And there's been a lot of thought processes going into what a simulation actually is. Some people call it a simulacrum. Imagine, I'll throw out a couple of different concepts, because the first two are somewhat self-evident. Imagine a simulation being, as we evolve more, say we move into a fifth dimensional reality, fifth density, and we become more comfortable with the notion of going through our evolutionary pathways. We decide that, say, we've evolved maybe 1 million more years into the future, and we've developed all sorts of, interesting technologies. We've expanded our minds. We decide that we want to create simulated realities ourselves. Okay, as 5D, perhaps even higher dimensional, higher density beings than that. And what that enables us to do is, instead of having a standard progression of evolution and experience base, we can ramp this up quite a bit. We can go through basically thousands of simulations in what would be the equivalent of just a few years of life for those. And then we can actually experience multiple aspects of ourselves going through this. Now, a lot of people say, well, if this is a God-created universe, we're doing this anyway. Our higher selves are basically creating all of the different soul fragments necessary to go out and experience in the multidimensional timelines. Granted, this same type of process. But here comes the problem. Something jumped in, whether it's a simulation, a God-created world, an Elohim-created world, very more advanced beings created this realities. It really doesn't matter at that point because, well, it matters. But what happens is that something jumped in and usurped this system. And that something is not necessarily got humanity's best interests in mind. Okay, so we can refer to these as dark forces. Other type, some people like to use the term satanic. Other people use archonic energies. Something comes from another universe into ours. Something came in, a different set of programmers. If it was a simulation that had a malintention, whatever the situation is, they came in and they set in an overlay to what the original pattern was intended to be. And that overlay is a very negative type of density implant that is designed to keep people in a low level of frequency and a low level of consciousness. And there's a number of reasons why that's important. One, they want to keep humanity from evolving. Or if it's some kind of, you can almost think of, I hate to use this term, but it is kind of appropriate for anybody who's played, big MMORPG, I think that's how you say it, video games. Okay, these are immersive video games, where you can play dozens of different characters. And well, imagine you are the character playing all of these various avatars. Well, it's kind of the same thing. Your higher self is the being playing you as the avatar in these realities. And it's interesting for them. It adds for not only evolutionary growth, but it also adds for excitement. They can try out all sorts of different possibilities that they wouldn't normally be able to do through a normal course of an evolutionary pattern. So when they come into these, they come in knowing a little bit that, hey, this game may be somewhat addictive. And it is. This 3D reality is a very addictive component for higher dimensional consciousness. And as they get in here playing more and more, imagine if it also is usurped by a dark entity or some form of dark entities that come in and take the game over. Now they've hooked these higher selves, these soul components, into this addictive cycle of a very dense negative game. And it just continues to play on and on. And this is why, some of the Buddhists say it can take 10,000 lifetimes to, get through this 3D process. Basically, what happens is the simulation itself, or whoever's running it, realizes, after 5 to 10,000 lives, there's nothing that these people can experience anymore. They're probably going to get kicked out anyway. We'll let them go. But for everybody else, I'm sorry, you're not probably getting the experiences you need after 1,000 of these lifetimes. And yet we have a large percentage of humanity that have been trapped in this over and over. So this sets a very kind of baseline foundation of what's going on. The key is, it really ultimately doesn't matter what type of construct this is. This means the overall system. A lot of people think that there's an operating system, some super advanced AI that runs it and monitors everybody, looking for every possible reaction. If it is a simulation, these simulations can also be reset, which means you think you're making some great progress, and then all of a sudden, everything gets reset back to some base level. So
that's an overlay. That's what we're talking about, is we've all done all of this healing, right? We've been at it for a long time, as you said. I mean, I've been on a long time ago, and I'm back, and it's like, well, we are all continuously working and discovering the next layer, the next layer, the next layer. So recently, when Michael and I were teaching the 21 Days of Transformation masterclasses, I was doing a channeling, and I was shown that there was like a matrix overlay within our etheric bodies. So we have overlays. Overlays have been put in place, like what he's been talking about, in various other places that aren't even just about our own emotional healing. However, they create that loop. Again, it's almost like they send you back to go on Monopoly, right? So you're sent back and you're going back into the same cycle, even though you have dealt with maybe the curses and the genetic and ancestral issues, and you're like, I'm free. And then very soon after you get free of it, it comes back in another way, right? And in the past, I know that we talked about that as like, you'll be tested 3 more times or whatever it is, so that you can really have learned the lesson and progressed. And so in this new understanding and realize that as we all continually raise our consciousness, we're shown like behind the curtain of the Wizard of Oz. You're shown the next piece that was hidden from us and that we didn't have the consciousness or the vibration to receive and to understand what it means. So in these matrix overlays that are within our energy, our 7 subtle bodies, right? They are actually acting counterintuitive to everything that we're working to do. And you're like, how fair is this, right? But they do tell us, it's then up to us to learn whether it's, the formula frequency, whatever it is that we're needing to access in order to counteract it and break through it. And that is really done with higher consciousness. And we gain that through the emotional and mental body healing. And as we all continue in this trajectory and opening to greater and greater levels of light, that is when we're able to see clearly what is going on and then be able to take the steps needed to basically obliterate it, right?
Well, here's the fascinating thing. I talked about a very macro level.
Yes, you did.
Gabrielle talked about a very micro level because these overlays exist within our own being itself. So you kind of got to wonder what it is that you're up against and why it wants everybody in these lower frequencies. Well, if you're in these lower frequencies, you're sucked into the game, basically, and you're going to stay in that route. So there's an objective there. But who is exactly keeping everybody in these lower densities? Well, again, it comes down to in how you interpret reality itself. If this is a God-created reality, unique to this universe, well, then it's these dark elements, satanic elements, the very beginning, 13 billion years ago, or 6,000 years, however long you want, these angelic forces. Well, think about it. Angelic forces, yeah, that's what existed at that time. A third of the angels in heaven revolted against God and the other archangel and the other angels. And this was beings all the way up from the seraphim all the way down to the hashmalon, which are the lowest levels of angels, the messengers. So you're dealing in some cases with some of these entities that are billions of years old at the higher end of the angelic hierarchy. They are exceptionally intelligent and know every component of reality itself. You're talking about beings, and if you want to go the other route and look at archons, these are beings that are higher dimensional beings from an entire different reality that broke through because of another story, but got into our universe and created this level of mischievousness. Again, they can look at our dimensions, they can look at our timelines, and they can slip into one spot, create in your mind, because a lot of them deal with the mind and emotions, create a suggestion, an impotence, a weakness that they're going to develop for 5 years from now when a series of events come out that weaken you very strongly, a death in the family, something like that, or a loss of a job. It could be any emotional trigger. And then they begin to plant the seeds, and they're doing that constantly. And they have a whole host of other lower demons, whatever term you want to use, archonic nestlings or any term you want to assign to them, that will go in and attack as well. What ends up happening is that you, or a regular human rather, has no idea that these forces are working against them. They cannot understand that there is a bigger game at foot. It's kind of like in the story of Ephesians. You struggle not against, flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and things like that. Well, these are angelic hierarchical elements that are at the mid-level. Again, if you look at it in a linear timeline, it's billions of years old, able to understand all of the components of reality, understand you at a deep psychologically level. They may not be able to read your mind, but they can look at your observations, and they don't necessarily like you. And if you're a light worker, well, guess what? They really don't like you because you're out there trying to break people out of this pattern. So what is this pattern? Why do they want humanity from evolving? Well, they want to be in control. They like you in lower frequencies, lower densities. Why? Because you're more easily manipulated. You're not open to heck, in today's world, we're not even open. If you look at right brain or left brain stuff, even rational thought process anymore, multivariable analysis. We're not connected up with source. Not people maybe on this program right now, but people in general. They don't even.
Humanity,
Yeah.
suffering, the lack of connection.
Excellent.
And the inability to understand that that is even what's lacking. So for all of us, we struggle with not only what is being launched against us for each one of us, right? But that since we're all one, we're also carrying the load for everybody else. And so, like, if you can look at it just on a family level, right? You're in a relationship with your spouse, your children, your parents, your siblings. We know many times, and we become exhausted because they're all caught up in the emotional, mental chaos of what is created on purpose in the third dimension. Mass consciousness is the frequency 0 to 200, right? And so those frequencies are all fear-based, all emotional fear-based, and they prey on, like Michael said, all your weaknesses. I mean, whatever your weak area is, that's what is always being pushed. That button is being targeted. And the people around you are also being seeded to push those buttons. You know, they are also part of that whole atmosphere that's being created around you. And so many people, I know that when I speak with my clients, they're just exhausted carrying their family, right? The people who aren't even really willing to understand that they need to raise their own vibration and heal their own emotional and mental bodies, right? Instead, they're thinking, oh, whatever, you're crazy. However, you're the one trying to keep the boat from sinking, right? And you're holding everybody. Your children come to you. Our children don't go to Michael because I'm the mom, right? And I do the emotional healing work. And so I will get texts from my daughters who are just down the hallway in the middle of the night. Mom, I'm having a bad dream. I feel like I just saw something in my closet. It woke me up. Can you do a cleanup on the house? Can you do a cleanup on me? Can you get everything recentered, right? This really happens. And so I've said to my own children, you all are old enough and you've been around all of this for your lifetime. This is not something new to them, where it may be for other people and their children that this might really be weird. Our children is just sort of normal. So this is, I'm like, you have to start taking responsibility. And that's been our course these last few years, is teaching them how to empower themselves, right? And so that's our job, is to be able to break through it ourselves and show the others the way so they too can do it, because we cannot hold up all of humanity and get them all moving to create this parallel 5D existence outside of this 3D matrix, while the 3D matrix is completely programmed to keep you inside.
So again, why is this thing in place? Well, the beings that create this or usurped it or have taken it over, go back to the movie The Matrix. You know, what did they say? You're a battery.
It's a documentary.
Yeah, you're actually a food source for them. Luge, whatever term you want to use. They, especially archonic energies or even, they've cut themselves off from source utterly, okay? The only way that they can ingest energy necessary for them to run, you know, their overall machinations and their own particular evolutionary pathways is off of the energy of others, the light, the quantum, you know, flux energies, whatever it may be. They need, it's almost like that pyramid system where they're the capstone at the top. They need all of the energy from those underneath them to support them. And the higher they want to evolve, they need a greater source of that. So when incarnations, souls, soul fragments, whatever it may be, are in here and they're in this constant looping pattern and they're going through incarnation after incarnation, always in this density, then, this struggle, this turmoil, it always starts with the mind. They attack through the mind first, and then they trigger that emotional component, and that emotional component, this misery, this sadness, depression, apathy, whatever these may be, victimhood, the absolute lowest, all of them. That becomes the food source, the energy source that they can then ingest and empower themselves up with. So that's what it is. Plus, if you look at it from a simulation type of situation, it's humanity itself, these emotional components and everything else that actually fuel the simulation. So it becomes a self-reinforcing loop, but it's not a reinforcing loop for us. Now, we've talked about all the negative components of it. Yes, we understand. They're here to keep us in lower frequencies. Yes, their function is, control, power, creating some form of energy source for themselves. They imprint a lot of our leadership. They create a cadre at the top to kind of run things for them as they go on. They do this throughout world after world after world. They've been very successful at it. Well, it's going to stop with this world, okay? Because a lot of us came in here for the sole reason of making sure that wouldn't happen. And again, it doesn't matter. A God created reality, an Elohim created reality, a simulation, some sort of spontaneous Big Bang thing. This is the situation we're in. We are here now to not only raise our consciousness, you used the term ascension at the beginning. That's not the only objective here. We came here to transition a world, which really means the inhabitants of the world, not just the world itself. Somehow I have a feeling that Gaia, or whatever term you want to assign to that, is going to be more than fine doing that on her own. She's probably been waiting for us to catch up. But we're here to help harvest as much of humanity as possible. The other side is here to harvest as many as they possibly can for a 4D dark, and they'll use transhumanism and all the other type of things. And by the way, folks, this isn't the first go around on this. If you've studied Atlantean, theories and mythologies, or for some people, history, 3 times that went down. So there's levels of victory that are acceptable, but I don't want to see personally a level of victory where it's kind of like in the movie The Knowing. I don't know if you ever saw that, where at the end it looked like a bunch of kind of Palladian beings or something gathered up all these little children and dropped them off on what looks like a 5D world all by themselves with, hey, there's a tree off in the background. Good luck. I would like to have more than that going for us. So we really need to now, as a group, begin to raise our own frequencies, raise our own vibrations, counteract for all of the potential methodologies that the other side is going to use to offset, trigger, knock us off of our kilter, reset whatever patterns are necessary. We've got to get more locked in and more serious about what we've been doing. It's not about personal ascensions anymore. We have to help humanity. And that means you have to present them with an alternative to what the other side is presenting, because they have been working at this literally for thousands of years, certainly for the last 100.
So somebody just popped up in the chat box. It is exactly that answer. Stronger together, we are immensely stronger.
2 or more gathering.
Yes, it is 2 or more that are gathered in my name. Exactly. When we pool our energy together, we are given access to higher and higher frequencies. And I say this all the time in my group work. The whole objective is to get us all to work together in the light, to join our energy and to raise our frequency together. The more of us that are able to do that, then we aren't single-handedly holding up the ship, right? We are then collectively creating our own overlay of energy, right? That border, that what we call the baseline, which is at 200 in order to pop us out of the fear-based matrix. And so as we gather our energy together and we're working together and we're cleaning ourselves up and we're discovering these other ways that we are being basically forced to, start over. We don't want to start over anymore. We've come a long way and we want to claim that and keep it. And so in this togetherness, we create that baseline that is above 200 and then move it up again and move it up again until we get to that 500 that we're all shooting for. Now, 500 is a fabulous number. We've talked about this a lot just between the two of us, that it's really a bandwidth that we're looking for, right? Our goal is 500, but we don't have to be at 500 as our baseline, but we have to be able to hit it, right? We have to be able to hit it for a certain length of time so that we're not sent backward, right? And have to start all over again. So that's the objective, is that as we each are cleaning ourselves up more into greater and greater levels, because our frequency is higher, right? And we are able to reach levels we weren't before, and we're able to receive higher vibrational information, so that we're able then to move faster. Basically the keys to the kingdom are all from within. However, you don't have access to all of the information that we need as we keep learning new things, right? It's because it's like growing up and maturing. You don't get to drive a car at kindergarten unless, you're one of these little children who drive around their little battery operated ones on our streets. But the objective is that we are given more and more responsibility as we're able to hold frequency, and also not succumb to the machinations of the energies that are opposing us, because that is also very important. Just yesterday, I had a client text me, and she said, I thought that when I had a session, I was going to be bringing X, Y, and Z forward, and that this was going to happen. It seems all stalled now. And they showed me again the vision they had shown me in her session. And I said, you were supposed to be the high vibe anchor in order to bring that in, meaning every day you are putting your intention and bringing in the light and filling that intention with the light every day. One and done is not how you do it. You have to bring in that highest vibration you can. And of course, join with other people if possible to make it even more potent. And she responded, oh my God, I forgot I was supposed to be doing that.
But we all do.
That's the other part of the matrix and how it works. It makes us forget things that are so clear, right? How many times have we all had the aha, like, oh my God, I get it. And then you get on with your life and you forget all about it until another time you're reminded, right?
Well, think about it. I mean, as we're going through our own personal journeys, we have been exposed to information over and over and over again. I mean, we know we need to heal, we need to purify, we need to open the heart, the center of our being. We know we need to be in this frequency of love. This is, you talk about a 5D or a 5 density world. Love is the baseline frequency for that. Here in a 3D world, it's moral courage, the ability to stand and take your truth and move forward with it. But when we are in our pathways, we keep getting knocked off kilter. So here's the thing. Again, it's not a surprising issue. We know what it is. Heal, purify, open up the heart, open up the center of the being, connect up with source, higher self, I am presence, whatever term you want to use, God. Bring that divine information into the heart center, bring it up into the mind, and then you walk around as your God realized self. That was what, Jesus Christ and many of these other great beings did. They walked. A Christ means, the anointed one, a being walking completely in connection with God and source on the earth. We are to also emulate as much of that as possible. So knowing it and being it are two different things, because this world is designed specifically to make sure that that does not occur. Okay. So when we're going through this, we need a couple of our own tools and a couple of our own processes to keep us locked in. We need to become more resilient to those attacks. We need to realize that if they're not going to come after us, they'll come after our children. They'll come after work people. They'll come after the staff.
Our dogs.
Everything.
We talk about this all the time.
Every time we try to do a great visualization, our puppies will go crazy and start trying to chew our legs off.
It is. Michael and I sat down yesterday. We decided that we were going to take the advice I'd given to my client, and we sat down to anchor energy. And as soon as we sat down to do that, the dogs started to play crazy loud with each other. And you're like, seriously, you were just laying there, just beautifully, So this is the thing, that even innocuous things that are meant to fracture our thinking and what it is that we are knowing that we're wanting to follow, that those things get discombobulated, because the other side is always, I always call them the other side, the the side that is meant to keep you off track, because that is their job, right? They are meant to keep you from raising your own vibration and thus being able to help others raise theirs. So they're always paying attention because they take their job very seriously. And the one thing about the dark side is that they are always in lockstep with one
They're
another.
very organized.
Their job is
Committed.
super easy. Disrupt, 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 right? Drag down. It's so simple. And our job, I will tell you, I think it's so much easier to be evil and dark than it is to have to be light, right? To have to be able to keep your vibration high, especially when there is so much going on around us and so much chaos is being created on purpose. And I think that that's part of truth. Divine truth is so important at this point in time, to be able to see through the overlays of the illusion that's being used in order to keep us all off kilter and from creating from that God frequency, right? That's where we get in trouble.
Let's talk about
Let's ask
frequencies.
Monsef if he has a question.
All right, and then we'll talk about frequencies, because that we brought this up a number of times, so we've never explained what these really are.
All right.
Yeah. So yeah, just thank you so much for all this information. And maybe it's not a question, but just a comment about what you shared. Like what I got from your sharing is that like this time that we are living in, it's like we are trying to stop the cycles that we've been in, like humanity has been in like for a very long time, like civilization advancing so much, and then they fall and they start over again. And it feels we are in the same time. And also, as you were talking about the matrix and how it is affecting us, also it shows how it is important for us to really find the truth within, and also like embrace our sovereignty, like approach this human experience as sovereign, instead of finding others who not find, but more about collaborating with others and seeing them as equals, instead of maybe seeing ourselves as weak and we need maybe saviors who can maybe save us from the matrix, but more about embracing our own power and try to question things, the experiences that we are having. And also, like you said in the beginning, about the lessons, we see like the healing process as maybe lessons that we need to learn, but it's more about being free from those triggers and those patterns that have been created in different lifetimes. So yeah, so thank you for what you shared. And
You see how it goes between us? It's literally not a breath between what happens. It's really funny. One time Michael gave me a little tap when we were doing a masterclass, and I jumped because the information is just coming through and coming out, and it's like we get into that mode of going.
Right.
But part of what we realized, many years ago, when Michael and I were first together, so more than 20 years ago, I remember that in the group that we are part of, they had said, we're all to move to a place where we have no judgment. And I remember thinking then, wow, how are we going to ever achieve that? That is going to be hard. And now, like with what you were just saying, I feel like, isn't it interesting? 20 years later, we are still working on those frequencies. Judgment of self, being self-critical, is one of the biggest issues that we all still have. Like, we are not good enough in some way. We are falling prey to, and I need to do better. I mean, we do this all the time. And so a suggestion, and just, try it out. I'd love to hear how it's working for you. But every time you have a thought that is self-critical, and I'm not talking about even what's out here. Of course, you can do it for that too. But it's in that moment that you have it, having the consciousness to say, I fill you with light. I fill myself with light, and allow the light to do what it needs to do, because light has its own consciousness. We all learned more than 25 years ago about Reiki. I mean, it's been around a long, long time. It's knowing and being open to the fact that this higher consciousness light has its own consciousness. It doesn't always need us to direct it. However, we need to ask for it to come in. Does this make sense? And so when we are filling ourselves with conscious light, we're helping ourselves to heal and to release our own self-criticism that creates the lack of confidence, the lack of self-esteem, the lack of connection. Because when we're fully connected, those things don't exist. Judgment of self and others then is short-circuited because you're using that higher vibration of light.
Well, there's another element even of it too. You have to look at it like this. When you're dealing with the darker elements of this reality, you have to, and this was very difficult for me because, you know, I was part of the crowd that was always, well, we'll go out and slay the dragon while everybody else saves the princess. We got stuck with a really kind of hard type of work. And it's an old special operations term. Anyway, let me say what it is. Okay,
yes.
So you have to, when it comes to these demonic beings and stuff, first you have to forgive. Remember, if this is a God-created reality, this is a duality construct. You have to have a light and a dark. It is the choice between these two opposition forces that enable us to have free will and make decisions. They're doing a job. If it's other beings that have come in or people that have usurped a simulacrum or things like that, you have to think about it from this perspective. When you forgive, first of all, it releases all of these ties, this darker negative kind of connotations and ideas you have about them, and it frees you up. But it's not just forgiveness. You have to also love them. And this gets really tricky, especially for people like me that, you know, oh, we need to gather these beings all up and stuff them down in the bottomless pit. Well, there's an old saying, there's only one of us here anyway. We are all reflections of one true source. Okay, we are all components. God sent, you know, it created this reality in its prime state, and then it sent forth parts of its own self, its own conscious light and everything to fragment off and then go and experience that reality. So no matter how dark and negative they have become, when we forgive and we love them, then we are at the point where we can begin to open our minds up and things like that for finding solutions. Then gather them all up and stuff them down in the pit. But I mean, they're like bad children sometimes. You know, I had to yell at my son this morning because, you know, it took him 20 minutes to get ready for school and he spent 15 minutes of it staring at his clothes. You know, it's like, no, get up, we got to go. But it's the same type of notion. You can still love the beings, but at the same time, it's time for some of them to go. So I want to talk a little bit about this frequency level if we can, because we've talked about this a lot. There was a gentleman that put together a sort of a frequency of consciousness all the way from 0 to 1,000. The very lowest of these is victimhood. And isn't it interesting in today's world? You want to talk about an overlay being pushed down into certain parts of the world where being a victim has become socially acceptable and even kind of sought after from some groups, some people. Why? Because it gives a sense of identity and it gives extra, not accolades, but extra privileges to be in that victim category. If you were a dark force residing at a top level, pushing it down into your elites to run the world, you would want to push everybody in as much victimhood as you possibly can. Why? Because when you're in victimhood, you've given up. I've got nothing else. If you are a true victim, and there many people are, the very first thing you need to do is stop identifying with it and start finding your ways out of that situation. The next two are shame and guilt. Victimhood is 0, shame and guilt would be at 20 to 30. And now, what are we seeing in so much of the world again? You don't agree with my belief systems, with my ideologies, with my perspective. I will shame you into acquiescence. I will make you feel guilty about who you are. Again, two of the lowest forms of consciousness we can be in. Do not use shame, do not feel guilt. Even if you are guilty of something, you know, rise above that perspective. And then the next one is both depression and, more importantly, apathy, and that resides at 50. And this is what we are seeing all over the world right now, especially among our youth. Our youth are very addicted into social media and everything else. You get this this group of people, literally. I mean, all of our two daughters are in high school right now. Them and all of their friends are like, what's the point of having children? What's the point of going forward? Oh, the world is not. I may as well just kick back and just let everything happen to me. No, you need to be it says, you know what, if the world is not a good place, let's create it as a good place. Let's stand in option to what some of this we're looking at. And then you get into grief, but the next big one is fear. This is what the dark history. When they get people in fear, they've got you. Why? Stop and think. Feeling, you know, all of this ambivalence and possibility. There are no struggles that you can't overcome. When you're in fear, you're afraid. You're not thinking clearly. You do not want to be in fear. When somebody is trying to push you fear, know that person, or victimhood, guilt, shame, any of these others, they are trying to control you. They are trying to manipulate you into these lower frequencies. And then we get into desire, which is like 125. That's what the, you know, Gautama Buddha, the Buddha taught everybody. You know, this is a world of desire. And once we get into these desires, we get into this self-replicating cycle of, you know, we're never looking into the higher levels of consciousness. Anger is the next one at 150. That's been my big one. Hey, anger served me really well when I was, you know, in special operations, but you get into domestic life, anger is not a positive thing, you know. And then pride. Hey, even Satan fell by pride. And by the way, have you ever asked, how did Satan convert a third of the angels to his side? It's because he used something that did not exist at that time, and it tripped up so many of the angels. He used lies and deception and misinformation. Before then, it was only truth. Stay in truth. Now you get into that mid-level where we need to be residing just to hold our own, and that's moral courage, and that's up at 200. Why don't you talk about the higher frequencies?
Well, the higher frequencies, moving all of us from that 200. This is what I was talking about. So we've been working on it individually, and we are still working on it because, as we've been talking about, this matrix overlay is designed to cycle us back into fear, into victimhood, into guilt, into feeling bad, into judgment. I mean, all of those things are in that 0 to 200, whether we peg them out or not, right? We all know what lower vibrational emotion is, and thoughts. I mean, big time thoughts. I mean, back when I was talking about the judgment thing, they had also told us, you know, you have to watch your thoughts because thoughts create, right? So it's a lot easier to create in the negative than it is to create out of the positive. It takes a lot more energy and effort because there are not enough of us in that range all of the time. And it's easy to create the negative because most people, mass consciousness, are at that frequency. And that is why it's easy to create in that energetic. Does this make sense to everyone? So that is why we're so big on identifying where these matrix overlays, not just what's going on within you, but also what is going on around us, because this is our overlay. So we have them within our energetic field and also within the overall matrix that is keeping us in a 3D energetic, okay? And then, as Mike was talking about, and something I really wanted you to talk about, was with regard to how this energetic of lies, because it's not just affecting us here, but it's also causing some people to begin using their energy to create dimensions or access to higher vibrational dimensions that aren't actually higher dimensional. And so this is the part of where the dark side tricks us, right? We think that we're heading in the right direction and that we are already in 5D. I hear this a lot. And the proof is in the pudding, right? What are we really seeing around us, and are we being affected by it? Then knowing that you must go within and connect with divine truth in order to see the deceptions that are pulling people, light workers as well, people of the light, leaders of the light. It is pulling them into creating or believing things that we haven't quite achieved yet. Do you know what I mean? That's my nice politically correct way of saying divine truth is easier to attain after we hit that 200. Okay, it's easier to be in that all the time. So it means that whatever you're experiencing, take that time out of, I'm going to allow this to come to me when I'm in my prayer or my meditation time. I'm going to connect and specifically ask. It's about being really responsible about what it is we are co-creating. Okay, and so as we are moving as a group into these higher frequencies where, as Mike was saying, we have to have willingness and acceptance, but not of all the heaviness and the darkness. It's of the light, right? We have to be able to see things through the light and process them in that way so that we as humans can process it and understand it. But overall, we have divine faith. And I have added divine to all of those things because I do feel like there's a different level of faith, right? There's a different level of trust. There's different levels of love and belief in God and source and what it is that we are tapping into in order to fulfill us and make us whole again, because that is essentially the objective. In order to get to that level of love at 500 of love and above, we must be whole within ourselves. And so that's the whole purpose of all of us working on healing our mental and emotional bodies, the 7 subtle bodies that are around us as well, and also within the quantum. Michael, very recently, and I always poke a little bit of fun, and that's a good part, I guess, about being married, is that you get to poke fun at your mate. But for years, I've been teaching about healing the heart, okay? And this is actually our connection and our conduit to our highest self, our soul, to God, to everything, our gifts and our abilities. It is through our high heart that we gain access to greater and greater levels of clarity and healing, our healing abilities, our clairaudience, everything up levels itself to these higher vibrations that we're talking about, and we're able to access greater levels from the cosmic libraries, the 12th dimensional great central sun, which is where the golden beings of light emanate from. So we are able to connect to these greater levels of being, because we are greater levels of being, and that is what we're wanting to connect with. So for years, Michael kept telling me that he didn't need to do it through his heart. He didn't have to heal his heart. That was okay. It was fine just the way it was. He was going to do it through his mind, right? And that's all he needed. And it worked so far, and, blah, 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 blah. And I kept telling him, okay, whatever. And that's partially probably why I was doing it my way, although we had the same objectives, right? So only recently, probably in the fall of last year, he came to me and he's like, you know what? I have to heal my heart. And I was like, what? I didn't hear you. Say that again. You got to heal your heart. Oh my God, I can't believe it. So this is the mighty warrior. And he used to say that to me. He's like, I'm the warrior, Gabrielle. You do the gushy, ushy, emotional stuff, but I'm the warrior. I know how to win these battles. And I said to him, but it's a different battle. This is not exactly the same. Now, here's the part where I've come around in my own evolution and understanding that we have to fight this battle with intention through the light. We must stay focused. We must use our abilities in order to clear out the debris, the garbage, the density, the lower vibrations, right? And so I see that it's going to take more of us to do this way. And of course, raising our vibration and helping others to do the same is how we're going to be able to direct this light force energy, because that is how we win, is using these higher vibrational frequencies in order to create our own matrix, our own overlays, and to create that dimension, break out of this one so that we can reclaim the fifth dimension, because that is really where we have all spent many existences. This is not our first rodeo. And we're here to bring this one back to that fifth dimensional existence.
So I want to just tie up a little bit and go back into these frequencies. And please don't get wrapped up in the frequencies themselves when I give a number, because it really is not important. It's just to give you a framework of what comes where. The truth is that when you're in higher frequencies, you're all of these together.
Right.
But
it's a bandwidth.
If 200 is this moral courage, this baseline where we need to be 250, willingness, which means the ability to, there's one, when Jesus Christ was asked, how do I attain the kingdom of God? He said, look, first go sell everything that you own, and then love God with all of your heart, your soul, and your mind, and love your brother and sister as you would yourself. Okay, 3 commandments in there. Love God, love your brother and sister, and love yourself. You've got to be willing to be able to do these type of things. You've got to be willing to move into that pathway. So that's at 300. Acceptance, which can be very difficult. I mean, even accepting praise for anything, but we have to be able to accept. Why? Because we are connecting up with the source. We need to be able to fully accept that transmission that's coming through those higher vibration frequencies. Reason, higher critical, higher thought reasons, connecting up with the higher mind. And then that's 400. And then we get to love, baseline love. When you're in this area, you need to be at that love. And if you want to think true agape friendship, the love for a person as they are, regardless of whatever their fallacies or their benefits to you, there's no attachment to what they're providing for you. Then 550 is joy, 600 is peace, 700 enlightenment. That's what the Buddha was trying to teach everybody, what these Gupta Veda Hindus have been trying to teach for the past 6,000-7,000 years. Enlightenment gets you out of the cycle of samsara. You're no longer reincarnating within the quote matrix or whatever it may be. But I wanted to only bring this up because there's one other frequency. If victimhood is at 0, there's a frequency that is at 1,000 that we should be using on a constant basis to help us move through and raise people up. And that is Christ consciousness, that golden light, that has that pure intelligence. That is something you should be flowing that into your being, into every cell and every quantum component into your being, and then emanate that out. Every time you see somebody that is struggling and moving forward, as long as they have acquiescence to let you help them, because you don't want to overstep their own individual pathway. Flood them with that light. When you are working together, 2 or more in my name, that is the frequencies that you should be using, at least at first, until even higher dimensional type of light and bandwidths of light and different energetic components, which are just energy banded together in multidimensional ways, can come through. There is so many things that you can use to begin to clear yourself up first, because remember, you've got to be one of those little neutron bombs walking on, not explosion, but glowing like one. Poor choice of words, sorry.
I just call it a beacon of light.
Yes, thank you. But more than just a beacon of light. It's got, what do they say? The critical number is 144,000 or 2 million or something. But when everybody reaches that, that's wonderful. But we want as much of humanity to go with us as well.
Yes, that's what we're here for.
Good. I like that golden ball of sunlight. Thank you. Much better.
All right.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much, both of you. And as you were talking about love and loving others, my question is, in those times that we feel like helping others, but at some point we feel that others become relying on us. It's, how to say, it's like they want us to do their work. So how do we approach those situations?
I'm going to answer it, because I've coached on this for a long time. I use it with my own family, and I've offered it to many people. So honestly, it is that detachment piece that Michael talks about. That in detachment, we aren't attached to an outcome or what it is that we're wanting for that person. And we all know, especially like for our children, our spouses, we want so much, right? And we hold that like, oh my God, I want them to get it. I don't want them to be left behind, blah, blah, blah. So the answer is really, it's simple. It's what Michael was just talking about. And it is about bringing in that golden light of Christ consciousness. And I just see it come in through my crown chakra, straight down through my high heart, and I beam it out from my high heart to their heart. And just knowing, it's like saying a prayer for somebody, right? You're bringing in the highest frequency that has its own consciousness to assist that person to heal or whatever it is that they're needing in order to get through. I use my own, our daughter as an example. When she was about 12 and a half, she started her very dark period. And we went through, 4.5 years, I think. 4.5 years. And she helped us to experience a lot of things I wouldn't wish on any parent. Where, you think to yourself, oh my, wow, we've provided her X, Y, and Z, and, we've loved her. Michael and I, when our babies were small, we had always arranged it that one of us would be home, even if we had somebody there to take care of them. We worked out of the house. We've been with them, right? We've coddled them to, the nth degree. And you're thinking, what the heck? This is not supposed to happen to us. These kids are supposed to be well adjusted. They've been loved and cared for and all this. Well, she just went off the deep end, and she found friends that, you'd never handpick for your own kids. You'd be like, why are you attracting that lowest energy and these dark and sad and depressed and all these things? So I had to come through that realization on my own, was that I remember Michael and I talking about it many times. We just need to keep sending her the highest vibration of love and light from our heart to her heart, and that she come through it. And of course, we supported her through, all that she brought on herself and on the family as well, because, she's not a singularity. What happened, it didn't happen as fast as we would like, right? But when she came out of her darkness at around 17 years old, she came out in a way that we would wish for everybody. She found God. She opened her heart. She realized that there was so much more for her. And she became loving her own self, which, when you're dark and you're holding all these negative energies, you're not very loving, and you certainly don't have an open heart. So it was like a miracle. It's just that we all like to think of miracles as happening instantaneously, please. But, sometimes a miracle can take longer, but that's the whole point of anchoring in that highest vibration of energy, right? And then with consciousness, sending it to that person, but also remaining detached and not attached to the outcome you're looking for. Because honestly, I'd say that outcome was more than we ever could have hoped
Shocking,
for.
actually.
Right? Yes, shocking. And we still say it to this day, like, wow.
And we're grateful too.
So grateful, right? And so she talks to her friends now, and about, not the same friends, she changed her friends, just about the importance of God. And that's incredible. She's 19 years old. So we're so excited about that, and know that if that can happen, then there's nothing that the light of Christ consciousness can't assist with, right?
You have to keep loving and forgiving. This is what separates us from the dark. Yes, there are higher dimensional dark entities out there that are able to use love, but that's love of self, that's love of their group, love of their agendas. Yes, they find a loophole in the system, but it's not the love, that unconditional love, that acceptance of what a person is, and then just sending out that feeling that it's almost like the connective tissue of the universe. God loves it all. Why? Because God is it all. I mean, it literally is. Love God with all of your heart, soul, and mind, and love your brother and sister as you would yourself. That's what separates us from the
But
dark.
that's the emotional healing part, because a lot of us don't love ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, that's the real issue here, is that within ourselves, just like I said, self-judgment is a really big thing for all of us. We don't even realize when we're doing it. You know what I mean? Do I deserve a massage? I don't really want to spend that much money on myself. You know, whatever it is, there's many things that we do and we don't even realize it, where we are not appreciating our own essence. And our essence is God. That's what is within us. Our soul essence is from God. And so all of us, as we continually raise our vibration, you can see it more and more clearly, the areas where we all need to continue to do better. You know, try a little harder.
Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Gabrielle and Michael. And yeah, we will take some questions in a little bit. But before that, I would love if you can tell us about the program that you are offering. It's 21 days, Treasures of Transformation. And also you included 3 other bonuses. And I invite everyone to visit the link yourdivineuniqueness.com/GM, yourdivineuniqueness.com/GM. Or you can click on the special offer button, which is on the webcast page, the live events page, or later on the replay page. And also it will be on the YouTube video description. And also I'm putting it on the chat box. So yeah, I would love if you can tell us what our audience can expect from using this program. Yeah.
This program is really dynamic. And the reason is because we are moving very quickly, right? We're moving very quickly to this higher plane of existence. We all feel the time thing. Like Michael was just saying to me yesterday, he's like, I just feel like we need to hurry. Like it's coming soon. It's coming soon. And we all know, and we can see as the energies are ramping up for the dark side and all that is being thrown at us on a planetary level, just pretty consistently. It's, you know, wham, wham, wham. You realize that there's a reason there's a ramp up, right? It's because sometimes when we're really coming to the head of war, both sides throw everything in the kitchen sink at you, and that's how they intend to to keep us from being able to rise above it, right? That's their strategy. So this program is designed to heal the emotional pieces, the mental pieces, and the spiritual pieces that need to be healed so that you can move through quickly with your divine connection. So there's the long way and the short way of doing things. And a lot of issues with programs is that they're kind of piecemeal. They might be working on one piece or another piece, and, you know, we're going to get the clairs open, or, you know, whatever it is. But this is really about connecting to your highest vibration as quickly as possible. And that's what the course is designed to do. Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, cleaning yourself up so you have greater connection, higher consciousness, being able to see yourself as that higher consciousness being, what that means for you, and being able to walk in that step and emulate it through your frequency. It's amazing. We have 3 master classes that we did together, where we taught more on higher consciousness and raising your frequency to a higher baseline. And then we recently added 3 additional master classes, which are the 3 bonuses that we've included. And one of them is specifically on releasing the 3D matrix overlay. I believe it's the emotional body one, the 3 to 4 level. So there's information about, I think, in also that replay is, or in the master classes, is about self-confidence and self-esteem and self-worth and those things, because no matter, we always seem to keep coming back to these. So it really makes you wonder what that overlay is, doesn't it? Because that's an emotional body overlay, which will be handled. It's in the 3rd replay of that group. So the whole program is succinct. That's what it's meant to be, is succinct, to get you powered up and moving, because especially with Michael and I working together, I felt like, all my work was always focused on healing, right? So that we could manifest and become creators. However, we need that action component. What are we going to do with these abilities? What are we here? Why were we doing this? It's not just about creating a great life for ourselves, because, we can all see in this 3D world that great life of money and house and whatever can be wiped away, based on what the other side is doing. It can be wiped away in a second. But if we're creating our parallel 5D dimension, that goes with us. We go with it, right? We create that parallel existence. And so that's where us coming together, it's to move us. We get cleaned up, but then we are doing something with it. We are actually creating this next level of existence for ourselves.
Yeah, put it together here on the 3D, folks. I mean, it really comes down to that. Let's show these higher beings that we can create fifth dimensional reality here on Earth too. I mean, I was listening to some information the other day, and it was pretty fascinating. It was saying that the majority of life, 5D life, is, in this galaxy alone, is mostly anthropomorphic, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, you've got different types of species and everything, but the majority of the worlds are fifth dimensional. The majority of the evolutionary process is taking back there. Third dimensional realities are actually a bit rare, and a lot of times they've had real of kind of these electromagnetic intelligence-based matrices placed over them intentionally to hold beings in that type of reality. A lot of, and I don't want to borrow from, other sources, but I remember a long time ago, I was reading this stuff about Cryon, and he would talk about how, you people that incarnate, or you beings that incarnate in 3D realities, you love to have your little ribbons. And one of those ribbons did a 3D world, did a karmic duality world. It's like, wow, yeah, it reminds me of like being in special operations, wearing either the special forces tag or the Navy SEAL Trident or something. People kind of looked at you as like, oh, wow, that guy's in, he's in, SOCOM or something like that, or JSOC. It's the same thing. These are tough realities. These aren't easy to come down and have this level of density and have literally almost all of your higher sensory perceptions stripped away, to have to come into a planet with no memory or no cognitive ability to retain that memory, unless you're coming in as some avatar or something, Krishna or whatever, and to have to go through all of these existences time and time again, at the end of it, dumping the memories in the Akashic records, or storing them heavy experiences within the soul itself, or the beneficial experiences. Sorry, it's very, very difficult. Okay, so it's also time for a certain group of people to move up and back into the next reality. Whether you're playing the simulacrum, the big video game that you enjoy, whether it's your incarnation cycles, you've done them enough, whether you've been trapped into this reality, there's you and a lot of humanity that needs to go into the next stage. And I think we may be running out of time. So let's ramp up the game. Or is that the right term?
Everything is strategy. It's all good, buddy. I think that the objective here is the program supports what we have been talking about with everyone today, is that, yes, it's about healing, and it's about more than that. It's about being able to be a creator, but to be able to create even more than we ever imagined, by just our 3D definition of creation. And that's part of it. We have to be able to do all of the steps, not just, the immediate needs that we might have. And that while we're working on these higher steps, all the rest comes into alignment, because then you're in divine alignment. When Michael and I started working together, it was really fascinating how he had been stymied for a long time on things that he was doing in his career. And all the doors seemed to open, but then close, seemed to open, but close. And then once he finally, and this part we can't stress enough, I mean, he had a really difficult time being like, okay, fine, I'll go out and talk to the world. It'll be fine. I'll do it. It was painful for him. He was like, no, I just want to be a professor. I just want to do what I do, and da, da, da. And it was like, no, you have to do it. So when he finally said, yes, okay, I will do it, his other parts of his life just started, they just fell into place. Boom, boom, boom. And that's, I think the bigger message for all of us is that if we are just focusing on these little pieces that we want to get in place, right? As soon as this happens, then I can do A, B, and C. As soon as I get the job, as soon as I get the spouse or the boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it is, as soon as that happens, then I will do X, Y, and Z. But it isn't about that. It's actually doing X, Y, and Z, and then all the rest will fill in the place. Does this make sense?
The fourth stage of creation is action. You have to get out there.
And that's where we are in
You
the
have to start
timeline, I
moving.
believe.
Preferably along the divine plan, not off on your own little tangent or whatever, but yeah, it's time for us to start initiating some action and actually as groups beginning to form up and have very directed, purposeful,
Right.
activities moving forward.
So we hope you'll take a look at the package. I think it's a wonderful package and that it will help you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, both of you. And for offering this program, because like you said, it's like everyone contribution is very important in this time. It's like you said, also, it's more about a co-creation where we are all going through this awakening, or maybe moving into freedom and becoming more sovereign beings here. And this is with being together, co-creating together, and also being an example, holding our own lights and sharing it with others. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing your support with our audience, sharing your program. And I feel it can be really, really helpful to our audience in their journey. So I'm so grateful to you. And everyone, I highly recommend that you sign up for this program. And you can find it on the page yourdivineuniqueness.com /GM, yourdivineuniqueness.com /GM. And the link also it's on the live events page, later on the replay page, and also on YouTube video description. And
somebody just asked when it starts. This is a complete video program.
Oh, okay.
The live courses have all been recorded and they're all in that package. Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. And yeah, we still have some time. Can we take some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Yeah. So so everyone, if you have a question related to the subject today, or for example, if you want to have more awareness about how your subtle energetic body is affected by the matrix overlay, or like more you need more guidance about that, so you can raise your hand by pressing the reactions and then raise hand on Zoom app, or you can type your question on the chat box on Zoom and also on YouTube. And if you are on the phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9. And let's see. It's a question about the package. Can we watch the videos anytime? Because showing up for time-specific day is hard for me.
You sure can. In fact, I offer them in two different ways. One is you get immediate access to the membership site where you can access all of the programs. Okay. And then the second way is that you're automatically be put into the drip system, which will send you the daily video. So that if you forget to go in, or you got in the beginning because you were so excited and you didn't keep going, it's okay, because you're going to get the email that will provide you the link. So you just click it and watch, and you will have a daily journal in there. And the journal is pretty amazing. Michael is amazing with visualizations. That's his talent. And where mine is channeling, his is visualization and creating through visualization. So he's created special visualizations for each video, and there are deep questions to help you dig deeper to find the root issues for you. So there's a lot of support material in there as well for you to do with each video.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And we have Destiny raising her hand. Can you unmute yourself?
Hi, Gabrielle. Been a while.
I know.
Good
How are
to see you. Oh, I'm experiencing this energy. And it's like I keep having to pull my consciousness like up into my frontal. So, and it's just really interesting because I just keep having to bring my consciousness back. And it's definitely not an energy that's helpful. In fact, I already know what this energy is. I just don't want to speak of it. And I'm wondering if you could help me because it's on like the left side. Could you help me clear this energy off the left side? Because it's somehow affecting so it's from my left side, but it's affecting like my right brain and thoughts.
Okay. Let's see what I get for you. Okay.
But it's coming from the back of my neck. So the back of the neck and like the frontal head. Okay, I'm gonna let you see.
Go ahead and join some energy with me.
This is your forte, my wife. Go for it.
I use Michael as the energy. You know what's really cool too about us working together is talking about battery packs. So when we're together, the energy is just even stronger. So it's very, very
Really cool.
Yeah, it's cool. All right. So let's see what they show.
So it would be like the back of the neck and ears and frontal head.
Okay, I want you to stop thinking though.
Okay.
I just want you to roll your eyeballs up toward your eyebrows and go into the theta state for me. And don't think, because that in itself is an overlay, right? We can disrupt our own healing.
Okay, I'm trying.
No trying, just be. So just breathe deeply and focus on your breath and om if you need to keep your mind busy. All right. Destiny, we're going to allow that to continue to do its work, but it should have had a massive clearing for you.
Ooh.
All right. So
Okay,
thank you
just
very much.
allow the energy to keep working. If you're still releasing it, it's okay. All right.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
No worries. Let us know how you feel in the chat box.
Okay.
Take a minute. It'll probably take you a minute just to come back. You know what I mean?
Wonderful. Yeah. Thank you, Gabrielle and Michael. Also, thank you, Destiny. Another question from Scorpia about the program. Excellent. I can't wait. Is there any way to ask questions during the program and get feedback?
Yes, you can hit reply in the email. Like I said, you're going to get a drip system. So you just hit reply and it will come to my email box, and I'm happy to assist you with questions or what have you. Every night I transmit to you highest vibrational frequency energy to help you to heal whatever it is that you are dealing with in that day, so that you're getting energetic work. We're just not talking about it, right? You're still receiving actual assistance through the connection. And so especially if something comes up and you want that evening transmission to address it, then definitely pop that in an email too. Totally. I'm totally available.
Beautiful. Yeah.
There was a question regarding the
Yes.
monkey mind.
Yeah, it's from Linda. Do you have suggestions on holding our vibration level up, both from our own monkey mind and also when we are immersed within the fear, overwhelm, and negativity of people around us? in our daily life?
Good
Thank you.
question.
Yeah, I mean, the whole concepts with transcendental meditation, all of the stuff that was taking place in the Far East was all about stilling the mind. I mean, in the West, we've been taught to pray. You know, the true form of prayer, by the way, is visualization. It's seeing that which you are requesting from source, and not just seeing it, but feeling it, creating a reality component that you're presenting to source. This is what I want to resolve. And as long as it's along the line of your actual path, you know, the path that you chose for this particular life, yes, then you can attain that. With the monkey mind, I mean, for those that don't know what that is that constant chatter that takes place. For anybody that's tried to conduct visualizations, meditation, where you're stilling the mind is constantly chattering. It's constantly jumping around. You're seeing things, you're hearing sounds, you're constantly thinking back and forth. The problem with what the monkey mind does is that it also is very susceptible to repetitive patterning. So when these dark entities come in and they start overlaying a lot, remember we talked about there's individual overlays and things like that. They will use those repetitive thought processes and they'll just play them forth and forth and forth, or on and on and on. And what we are is we are in a way kind of products of what I call neural conditioning, which means we are susceptible to a lot of thought processes. So if you ever watch one of these news cable outlets, you'll always see these like reds and blues flowing across, or you'll see the line of words going across, and you'll see vibrant kind of flashes every now and then. All that is to put you into a semi-suggested state so that the repetitive patterning can be constantly presented to you. And it becomes, after a while, part of your belief systems. You will actually identify with it. That's the same problem you run into with the monkey mind. A lot of those thought processes are themselves a pattern from a higher element overlay being dropped in to where you're constantly thinking about those. If those are in a detrimental formation, having you more into, say, feeling like you're in guilt or shame, or feeling like you're or in fear or any of these other things, you have to identify where the source of those are. And a lot of times they're not your own thoughts. Then you have to go through the process of actually creating the barriers, using the light and its most infinite component to cleanse the mind and remove those type of things. You have to purify the self and purify your mind and try to connect up with the higher mind and allow greater thought process. Release those negative reoccurring patterns with something that is far more positive.
Destiny, call in the golden light of Christ consciousness to ground yourself. That for every one of us, remember I said that the highest vibration, golden light of Christ consciousness, is at that 1,000 level frequency. And when we bring it in to our bodies, it helps us not just to ground, but to awaken as well. It's amazing what comes through for ourselves, but it's allowing that energy to do its work. So if you're not grounded, it means you're not ready to be grounded. Allow the work. So lay down, go take a 20-minute nap, whatever you need to do so that the light can continue to do what we requested, which was the healing for you, right? So if you're not grounded yet, that would be my suggestion if you are not feeling yet whole, right?
There's another component to it as well. Trace that you were talking about, that feeling that's coming from behind you. We were looking in when you were doing that as well. You need to trace what that energy pattern is. And you're right, it's not conducive to your own evolutionary pathways. You've already identified what that is. Send that light forth into that Christ consciousness. Remember, I told you it had an intelligence. Seize those components that are behind you and then trace them back into the source of what it is and seal that off. You do not need that in your existence.
And you do that with the light.
And avoid making contracts or any kind of interdimensional agreements with any of these type of things, because a lot of times they'll come in and trying to present themselves as entities that are trying to help you, when in fact they have ulterior motives as well. And everybody falls into these traps.
Divine truth is really big. All right, so I wanted to answer something else about the monkey mind. So the other part that I know and have experienced myself and others is that as you heal your emotional and mental bodies, that monkey mind just goes away. it stops chattering at you. And so that just tells you that whatever is going on within you, that area of whatever it's bringing up needs to be addressed. That's another thing. It's like a sign, right? What is it that's chattering on and on? Is it just duties I need to be doing, or is it, I'm caught up with negative thoughts that are swirling around me? What is it? And when you realize, and you can write it down and keep your little journal to kind of see the pattern, and then go deeper on that area of healing so that your mind can let it go, because your mind is really the conduit for your subconscious, which is really the conduit for your entire energetic self. That's where it's pulling the memories from, is your energetic self, the quantum. So you can see how it's all layered, right? But this is how you start digging down. Okay. All right.
And Destiny, when you're permission, once this is over, we'll look at addressing this a little bit more. So.
Yeah.
Yes, please. Yes, please. And thank you, Gabrielle. And thank you, Gabrielle's husband. Thank you.
Well, you can't get two archangels together, right? Here we are. Michael and Gabrielle, 2 names, not even made up. All right. So, Monsef, is there any other questions?
No, but I just want to thank you for the support you gave to our callers, all the inspiration, the information you shared with us today. Yeah, there's a lot to assimilate, to integrate, and yeah, I'm very grateful to everything you shared with us today. It was very, very inspiring and really opening our eyes to understanding how this reality works and how to step into our true power and share our light. So grateful to both of you.
Thank you, Monsef. Thank you for having us both. We are excited to be here and sharing with everyone. Thank you, everyone, for attending and listening. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. Wonderful.
Yeah. Linda, sure. Thank you so much for addressing my question. Very grateful. Thank you for this amazing gathering.
Yes.
Yeah. So also, everyone, thank you so much for joining us today, co-creation with us this experience today, and sharing with us your beautiful energies. And again, you can sign up for the program that Gabrielle and Michael are offering to us on the page yourdivineuniqueness.com/GM, yourdivineuniqueness.com/GM. And the link also is on the live events page, later on the replay page, and on YouTube video description, and also just now on the chat box. And yeah, so with that, everyone, I'm sending you so much love, and I will see you on the next call.
Great.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.